In this video, I'll show you my 3 secrets for crocheting the perfect pumpkin with my Rustic Twist Pumpkin pattern. We'll cover how to master texture, how to avoid common mistakes, and finish your pumpkin so it looks beautiful, not lumpy or collapsed. And of course, I'll walk you step by step through the pattern so you can make your own. This pattern actually has a premium printable PDF which you can purchase from my pattern store linked in the description. For this tutorial, I'm using DK weight yarn, 3.5mm crochet hook, and of course for your finishing you'll need your darning needle, a pair of scissors, some stuffing, a small twig for the stem, and a little fabric or ribbon which is optional for embellishment. Some notes before we start. The gauge for the pattern is 13 stitches and 6 rows in double crochet give me 4 inches by 4 inches, a 4 inch by 4 inch square. So that's the gauge if you want to match the exact measurements of this pumpkin, which is around 4 inches from the twig to the bottom and even across. Because it's worked flat in rows instead of rounds, we'll be seaming the piece when you finish up. And most importantly, we'll be working in the third loop. That's what gives our pumpkin its signature texture. I'll explain what the third loop is and show you how to work on it as we go along. So let's begin. Let's put these ones aside because we won't be needing them for a minute. First, you're going to start by making a chain of 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you go. Now you're going to start your work in the second chain from the hook. This one on the hook itself doesn't count as a chain, so you start counting from the finished one right after it. So this is your first one and this is your second chain. You're going to single crochet in that second chain and single crochet in the next 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. After that, we are going to HDC 2 together twice. So this is our first HDC 2 together, then our second one. From there, we are going to work a HDC in the next 3 chains. So that's 1, 2, 3. Then 2 HDC in each of the next 2 chains. 1, 2, and then HDC in the next 3 chains. And then you have your HDC 2 together twice. From here, you single crochet in each of the next 3 chains, and on your last chain over here we're going to work 2 single crochets. And that's our first row. Before we continue with the pattern, I'm going to share secret number 1 to master texture. Textured pumpkins are easier to shape and look more rustic. In this design, we get texture from 2 things: the wave pattern that you can see forming right here and working in the third loop. Normal stitches have 2 loops, as you can see over here. You have the front loop and you have the back loop. But tucked just below and behind the back loop is what is called the third loop. When you work into this loop, the front and back loops are pushed forward, creating a raised ridge. And because you're working in rows, the third loop appears in front, just below the front loop. Let me demonstrate. So for row 2, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. And as you said, when you look just below the 2 loops over here, we are going to see the third loop just hidden and tucked right below there. So this is what you're going to work on. It's easier to spot when you have the half double crochets, but you can also spot it in the single crochets right below here. That's where you're going to work your stitches. Now that you know where the third loop is hidden and tucked away, let's get going on with the pumpkin body. After you chain one, you turn your work. You're going to work 2 AC into that first stitch, and if you have trouble picking it up, you can turn your hook like so and just insert it into that loop and pull up your stitch. So that's our first stitch there. And then you're going to work single crochets in the next 3 stitches. Remember, the entire pattern is worked in the third loop. So that's where we're working our next 3 stitches, which are single crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3. You're going to HDC 2 together twice. You're going to pick up that third loop right there. Then in the next one over here, that's 1, that's 2. Then you're going to half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. In the next 2 stitches, you're going to work 2 HDC, 2 HDC in one, 2 HDC in the next. Then you work half double crochets in the next 3 stitches, then HDC 2 together twice. That's the first one. And right there, the second one. Then you're going to work 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and in this last stitch right over here, you're going to work your last stitches, your last 2 stitches, which are 2 single crochet in that 1 stitch. And there you have our row 2. If you turn your work, you can see why I love the third loop. You can see that the front and back loop have been pushed forward, so it gives it a nice texture right there. And you can also see the wave pattern coming along. So as you're doing your pattern, you have to make sure that you're double checking and that you're making your stitches in the third loop and not the back loop or front loop. And if your ridges are too tight as you're working that third loop, you have to loosen your tension or go up a hook size to make it easier for you to work your stitches. So let's do one more row so you can see it. And the entire pattern consists of 30 rows, and these 30 rows are just a repeat of this row 2. So let me do it again so you can see how it goes. You chain 1 and you turn your work, and in this first stitch is where we start in the third loop right there. So insert your hook and work 2 AC in that first stitch. Then you work a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to work 2 half double crochets twice. That's 1, and 2. In the next 3 stitches, you work half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Then in the next 2, you work an increase, which is 2 half double crochets in each of the next 2 stitches. The next 3 stitches, half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Then you work HDC 2 together, once, then HDC2 together another time, and this third loop right here after the final HDC is really likes hiding, so you have to be careful you don't miss it. So you work in that over there, then you work single crochet in each of the next 3 SCs, 1, 2, 3, and then in this last stitch you're going to work an increase of 2 single crochets. So that's 1 and that's 2, and there we have our row 3. You can see again the ridge pattern is forming and the wave is becoming even more pronounced. So this is how you're going to continue with the pattern until you have a total of 30 rows. And our final stitch, which is 2 single crochet. There we have it, 30 marvelous rows. You can see how the front and back loops have been pushed and it has a nice texture, and the wave pattern is also so lovely. Look at it. From here we are moving on to the finishing touches of this pumpkin, and that's where my secret number 2 comes in. Avoid shaping mistakes. Here are the 3 most common ones. Overstuffing. After you have seamed your pumpkin, as you're going to do, you have to make sure that it's not stiff or uneven. You stuff lightly, aim for plump but squeezable, not so firm and overstuffed, especially since these ones are half double crochets and not single crochets all around. You'll see the stuffing poking through if you go too hard on it. So just stuff lightly and make sure it's not too firm, friends, not too firm. And as you're seaming, make sure your seams are not weak. For this pattern, I'm going to show you how you're going to seam, and you're going to seam by catching the third loop and the chain edge across. Strong but invisible. And another mistake is skipping vertical segmenting stitches. What this means is that you need to take your time as you run your yarn through top to bottom, because most of the time that's what you need to do to give that pumpkin shape, that plump shape it gets, so that it's not a round tomato just staring at you. You need to run your yarn from top to bottom a couple of times so it gets nice and sort of flat, that flat look it gets. And without this, your pumpkin looks like a ball, not like a pumpkin. So you need to take your time as you're shaping. Don't rush. Run the yarn through top to bottom a few times, pulling gently, my friends, until you get those natural segments. To close off your piece, fold in half like so, chain 1 and turn. Right with me so far? And you're going to insert your hook through the third loop right there, and the corresponding stitch across. So you have to make sure you're really getting it, because as you can see, the wave pattern can cause you to be a bit confused as to where the first stitch is. But do not panic. You can see the first stitch is right there. That's the stitch you're going to insert through, and then you're going to work a slip stitch. So again, insert through the third loop there and the corresponding stitch across, and you slip stitch. Third loop, stitch across, slip stitch. Third loop, stitch across, slip stitch, and you're going to continue like this throughout the entire row. Just go slowly. Don't panic when you get here. Remember, you still have these few stitches to go because of the wave pattern. It's a little bit bent. So just keep going slowly in the third loop and in the stitch across. and working a slip stitch. And again, this third loop that keeps hiding over here, don't forget it. When you get to the end, you're going to fasten off that yarn. And leave a long tail that you're going to use to seam your work. So after you do this, what you're going to do, this is going to be the wrong side, and you turn and look, you can't tell where the edge is, right? Seamless. It looks beautiful. So at this point, maybe we're going to weave this end in so that it's not in the way as you continue with the work. So there you have. So thread your yarn. And you're going to insert your darning needle through these chain one bumps that are visible. You see these areas right here? These are the areas where you're going to insert your needle. So you're going to start with this one right here, like that. Like that. Insert through the chain one bumps that are visible. These ones and these ones and these ones, and you're going to repeat this all round. Chain one bumps right there. And this one. So you're going to keep pulling, and this is going to be our top edge. So what you do is you want to take your twig and measure it, and make sure you leave a hole just big enough for the twig to enter through. Then after you've measured it, like so, right, you're going to leave a small hole for it. Then you're going to fasten off. Okay, weaving this end. I have a tutorial on how to weave in your ends so that they never come loose or your work doesn't come undone. I'm going to link it, you can check it out. And you're going to repeat the same process for the bottom of the pumpkin, but this time what you want to do before you thread the bottom of the pumpkin is, first you're going to secure this yarn. So I like to secure the yarn that I'm going to use just as if I'm weaving it in, so that it's nice and firm in there. Once it's secured, I'm going to stuff the pumpkin. Remember what we said about stuffing? You stuff lightly. You don't want a lumpy pumpkin. So you just keep checking to make sure everything is good. If you have more room, keep adding. And if you're not sure, you can just so we are going to leave it right there. If you're not sure about your stuffing situation, you can just start slowly closing in that bottom hole, same way as we did for the top, through the chain 1 bumps that are visible here. You can just start closing it and seeing if you'll need more stuffing or less. Okay. Through the chain ones. Through the chain ones. Through the chain ones. All the way around. And you're back. So just do that and see if it's too much. You can see this one is a bit lumpy. I haven't put in enough stuffing, you can see. So I'm just going to just open a bit and add in just a bit more stuffing. Not too much. Not too much. Yeah, I think this works. Oh, there's this area that doesn't have stuffing right there. You see? Awesome. So after you've pulled it tight, you're going to tie a knot and weave in your ends. Again, I've linked a tutorial on how to weave in your ends. So what you're going to do next is to create that squashed pumpkin shape. You see this? You're going to want to maintain this. So you're going to make stitches that run along vertically through the center of your pumpkin. And you need to be careful not to close this hole that you left for the twig. So you need to do this about 3 to 4 times. See? This is why you need to leave a long piece of yarn to make sure this step you don't run out of yarn as you're doing it. So I think I'm going to do another one over here. Going all the way down. Look at it. So after that, you're going to fasten this off. And to make sure you leave in that end. Don't leave it hanging. Then you're going to take your twig and put it through the hole. I think my hole got a bit loose as I was working, but that's okay. You can just take more yarn and tighten it, or take your ribbon or piece of fabric that you wanted to use and use that to hide the hole. What you're going to want to do for this one is to put some glue so that the twig and either your fabric or ribbon stay in place. Don't want anything coming loose or undone. And there you have it, a rustic pumpkin. So my secret number 3 is all about the finishing touches. As you can see, I've used a twig. You can use whatever you like, a twig. I've seen people use cinnamon sticks for that farmhouse feel, and maybe the scent as well. But a twig works. It works. If this doesn't work for you, or you have no access to twigs where you live, you can alternatively crochet a stem. You're also going to add the ribbon or fabric or twine around your stem for the cozy detail. And don't be afraid to play around with color. You can use orange, you can use creams, grays. Experiment and see what works for you, what works for your style. As I said before, you can get the premium pattern for this pumpkin in the link below. And that's it. My 3 secrets for crocheting the perfect pumpkin. You need to master texture, you need to avoid shaping mistakes, and you need to add pro finishing touches. And remember, once you've added your twig, if you're going to use a twig, and whatever fabric, twine, or ribbon, you're going to need to glue them together. So just glue at the ends right here, not somewhere that's so pronounced at the top, but just at the bottom over here at the end, so that they hold nicely together and they don't come loose or undone, especially if they fall. Ooh, everything's going to fall apart if they fall. So make sure you glue them. And don't be afraid to play around with color, either for your pumpkin or for whatever fabric, ribbon, or twine you'll use. See what looks nice or feels nice for your aesthetic. And check out my playlist on quick crochet projects for more cozy ideas.